Good evening from India. Good morning to America. This is 4th of November. It's 7, I guess, 45 in the morning, East Coast time in the United States. It's 6:15 nearly Indian Standard Time in India. Welcome back to this very special live telecast on the US presidential elections 2020 by PIOTV in collaboration with the Foreign Correspondents Club of South Asia and UNI Television. We are very proud to collaborate together with FCC South Asia and United News of India. We've had a marathon session. My name is Munish Gupta, Managing Editor, Chairman, PIOTV. We've had a marathon session this morning with a number of our friends and guests from the United States this morning, meaning India time in the morning, 9 a.m. to 12 noon. And we captured what was happening after a very historic, very tight, very neck and neck race, as it seems, in the United States between incumbent President Donald Trump and former Vice President Joe Biden. We've had great participation from our guest speakers and special guests from the United States. We were coming live from Wilmington, Delaware, which is the home state and city of the Democratic Party candidate Joe Biden. We are very fortunate and thankful to have with us Mr. Paresh Patel. If you could take us back to the windows, Anil, I would like to show everybody. Yes, very happy to have back with us Mr. Paresh Patel, our Indian American staunch leader, Democratic Party fundraiser, and somebody very close to the Biden family from Delaware. We're also delighted to have with us a very charming friend, Priya Samant from the state of Massachusetts. She's an impact advisor and a strategic consultant, and very also delighted to have back with us from this morning, PG for short, but Panayotis Giannakouros, the research scholar at the Global Institute for Sustainable Prosperity in Virginia. And of course, a very special thank you always to my dear senior colleague and friend, Mr. S. Venkat Narayan, the president of FCC South Asia. We are missing here, of course, Mr. Avdesh Tiwari, who's the consulting editor for UNI, but he's there in spirit with us as he's battling a little bit of a cold. He doesn't have COVID. He's fine. But let's come back. Let's come back to the race where it hung in the morning at probably a very critical position. It's right now. I would throw it to Venkat. Venkat, we are still stuck. It seems that in the morning when we left off, Reuters.com and a lot of these statistics that were available from news organizations and other institutions were telling us that while former Vice President Joe Biden was ahead in the race, but he had about 224 odd electoral votes, needing to reach 270 to win, and President Trump had 213. Things might have changed since then. I don't know what is the latest score, but we'll ask Priya and PG for the tallies because they keep a good tab on it. But things are at a standstill. There have been some important results that came out. Four previous Indian American persons in U.S. Congress have been returned back to Congress. Dr. Ami Bera, Raja Krishnamurthy, Pramila Jayapal, and Ro Khanna. And I believe there's a fifth one who might become the second only Indian American lady to come into Congress, Dr. Hiral Tipirneni. She was leading at last count. So that's good news for the Indian American community. I mean, we are making a splash. We are making a comeback. I believe two Indian Americans in standing for the Republican Party had a close race but lost. So that's been the news so far. Venkat, throw some light on what do you think is happening that you have been reading. I know you've been catching up for the last 3 hours on what's the news, but unmute yourself. You have to unmute yourself, Venkat. Yeah.
Okay.
Great.
Something hilarious has happened that is Mr. Trump telling his admirers that he has already won the election, and they should stop counting, and he's going to go to the Supreme Court, and he was planning to have a huge celebration, but that's not happening because the counting is still going on, and he's not going to accept that. And that kind of statement he made, and I thought that was highly irresponsible and hilarious. Even in a third-rate democracy, incumbent president will not make such a statement. What do you make of that, Paresh, PG, and Priya?
So I can, if that's okay, I can go first. So while
Please.
we were trying to get online, I was just saying to PG is that, and to all of you is, you see when Vice President Biden addressed his base, and when President Trump addressed his base, you can see the tone of addressing, and how it is. I mean, the ballots are still getting counted. There's we are still, it's getting processed, so the results are not in yet. I mean, you can just give the projections, so we have to wait. I mean, we have to have the patience and the faith in the process. And Vice President Biden showed it to us that we are awaiting it, and that shows the characteristics of a leader, what it is. And to me, that matters a lot, and I hope America has made the right decision, and we will see what the final results are.
PG, you have to unmute yourself, PG. Okay, good.
Yes, I've seen such confusion in races before, where it's been very close, and I certainly understand the pressure in new candidates. Let's say being eager to hear what the outcomes are. The sitting president of the United States, I don't know if that falls in the category of a new candidate overly eager. I think it's clearly very important to respect these processes, and it tells us something about how we may imagine our country going forward. So I do think it's a significant difference in the two candidates, because they both could equally make a claim like that at this moment.
Perry, what's the mood there in Wilmington, Delaware? And have you had any conversations with anybody from the Biden household or from the governor, lieutenant governor, anyone?
Not so far, Munishi, but I'll share with you, because you see the stark difference between what we are dealing with it. And none of these claims that, just so you know, President Trump had the teleprompter. There was already a speech that was written for him to deliver. He chose the last minute not to use that and use something otherwise, which is claiming that he has a victory and he's narrow path and he's there, and otherwise he's going to go to the court. As you and I know, he himself is not an attorney or a lawyer. As we also know, Joe Biden is an attorney by himself, and he, in his wisdom, has been prepared for these things. There are plenty of scholars who will share with you that this is a legal battle that he's not going to win. So immediately he crawls back on his comments, his tweets. So this is the person that we are dealing with it. I'm sure the people of America is going to make the right decisions. But having this kind of a divide, this kind of a country, even whoever wins, would it be difficult to navigate the country through the broken pieces of the puzzle. It's a family that is going through a very tough situation, and I think only God could help to give the energy to cope both parties in dealing with this situation.
Yeah. And if you could, I just want to add one thing. If you heard this news, is that while President Trump uses the social media, the Twitter form of social media a lot to handle, to address his base, one of his tweet was marked as misleading. With this, Twitter actually flagged it. So that kind of shows it, right? It's a warning sign.
But on the other hand, some of even the big companies like Google, Twitter, Facebook are being talked about in the whole world. I mean, this is a discussion I notice. It's a big discussion with a huge following in India, that the big guys are actually ignoring Trump for whatever be the reasons, but they are giving space to the Democrats and they're totally ignoring the Republican, which some people are calling unfair. And it's, I mean, social media is social media. It's used by everybody. But let me you were not there in the morning, PG, when we talked about this issue. We talked about whether Trump can actually create a situation which leads to any sort of a constitutional crisis, and Perry said no. So what do you say as as somebody who's done research and a scholar? Can he create some sort of a crisis? Unmute yourself.
Well,
Yeah, go ahead.
as somebody who has done research, I have to say that my scholarship is not in the legal realm, so that's beyond my capability, and I have to be candid about where my limits are. Although we remember Florida, of course, in the Bush versus Gore
Yes.
situation. Now, whether that would yes, now whether we would get a crisis, that was certainly something that was decided in the courts. What else could happen? That is not my area of expertise. Yes.
In the morning, Priya, you said that the Democrats would take the Senate. Is that happening?
Well, right now Republicans are leading, but we are very hopeful with Arizona coming in, and also uh, maybe North Carolina. So I'm hopeful. I'm hopeful because it's a very close, very very close race right now with the Senate. I mean, we were hopeful for South Carolina and Kentucky, especially South Carolina, but unfortunately, the Republican candidate Lindsey Graham won the seat.
But this goes to prove another point, and I referred to this even in the morning. I mean, you have to see the outcome of this election as a very, very polarized election. I mean, the numbers on the popular votes are so close. So it's not just the electoral votes, but the popular vote also that is very close. It goes to show that when you were talking about saying the Democrats might take the Senate, it didn't happen because again the popular vote is what is driving this huge Republican Democratic divide. So this has become a Republican versus Democrat as much as it has become a Trump versus Biden situation. Would you agree, PG?
Yes, I am definitely seeing that, and I've been watching several House races as well, all around my district, and even my very next door, proving case studies that are borne out in larger numbers. There was a poll that just came out that I just became aware of in the New York Times about the demographics, who's voting, how, why people are voting, and I think that it is bringing out, as you say, something that is larger than the individual candidate for president and is reflected in the other races.
So this is for the first time, Perry Sab. This is for the first time in many, many years. We are seeing an election at the presidential level. We've always talked about this in India, whether India needs a presidential form of government and whether it would suit a country like India, where we've always had sort of parliamentary democracy. So, in a presidential form of government where there are two hard hitting, heavy candidates and a very heavy democratic ticket, which was built to say that it is going to win, um, that this has actually become a clear case of America being torn apart literally on issues, and it's literally halfway there, Republican and halfway Democrat. So, what do you make of that? And is this going to impact things for a long time to come?
Ministry, as any crisis that comes into any family, any country, sure, I believe everybody would learn the lessons from what could you build on. And you built on the things that are good. You built on the things that are the strength. You built on the things that are common, and then you could make a progress. I believe dividing country is not the situation, not the answers that anybody wants to see. It is not healthy for any organizations, any family, or any country So I think as time goes, sure, the time will heal the wounds, is what I would say. So it's going to take a little time, but we will get there. Priya, I didn't know. Can you confirm to see if Maine got Sarah Gideon? I believe she did. So that's one of our Indian person that I think made it to the Senate.
You have to unmute yourself, Priya.
Okay, I'm saying let me check. Let me check on that. Okay, but that's a
Okay. And while she checks, I think what I'm referring to, Paresh and PG and Priya and Venkat, is that after a long time, we are seeing that there is a party line divide. It's a issue divide. It's no longer presidential, people. It's no longer figures. So it's moved beyond the Trump, because everybody was homing in on Trump. And I think Trump has basically, as president, as an incumbent, really been able to capitalize on a few things that he got the message out far and wide. I mean, this is what is reflecting in the vote. I'm just sort of analyzing the vote. And what do you say, Venkat? Unmute yourself.
The fact that Trump defied the scientists' advice and went all over America, and addressed rallies where he himself did not wear a mask, and nobody who was attending his rallies was also wearing any mask. And as a result, 30,000 people have been infected by coronavirus, and 900 people have died. But in spite of all that, I'm surprised to see the kind of popular support he clearly enjoys, in the sense half of the American population, as far as the votes counted so far, more than 60 million or so voted for Trump, and another 60 million to Mr. Biden. And I think the final tally, when the counting is over, we'll have to see what is going to happen. But as of today, it seems to me that the United States of America has uh, been reduced to divided states of America. And I hope this will, once the results are out, maybe Mr. Biden, Mr. Trump, who says he's not used to losing anything in his life, he may be forced out of the White House screaming and kicking with the intervention of the Supreme Court or whatever. But I do hope that all the American people will work together. And this is what Mr. Biden had said in his debate speeches, that I will work not only for people who voted for me, but I will work for everybody in America. And I do think that, that is what is going to happen. So the current divide, vertically almost, in terms of number of votes polled so far, I hope it will not last very long, and the Americans will get down to business once the new president assumes office in the White House on the 20th January 2021. Monish?
I think that's a very fair assessment and a statement to make, because even in the past 2016 election, very controversial one in itself for many reasons. When finally President Trump took over, America showed resilience, America showed patience, America showed persistence to let somebody come in and rule the White House as a mandate given by the people. So I think one would have to respect whatever mandate is given in the world's largest democracy and oldest democracy by the people, and it would have to be respected, be it Mr. Biden, Mr. Trump, the Supreme Court, or whoever. People's mandate is final. It's just that we are analyzing how the people have thought and voted in a time which is not just controversial beyond the two candidates and their policies, but also definitely very influenced by the current pandemic and its fallout, and which could be very, very long term. Let me come back to another
so.
issue.
Actually, I wanted to Periji's
Please.
comment question. Actually, I wanted to add is Susan Collins is actually leading.
Okay.
Yeah, yeah. Yeah.
So is it Susan Collins? Oh, Susan Collins is leading against Gideon.
Sarah
Gideon.
Gideon.
Sarah Gideon. Yeah. Yeah.
Okay. All right. So let me come to the other issue. 1.8 million, is that number right? Somebody would know the statistics, whether it's you, Priya, or Parry, or PG. How many Indian American voters in this election? Was it 1.8 million?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Who
So
voted? Yeah.
1.8 million out of 4 point some. That's a lot of vote catching up, and definitely with the affluence and with the fundraising, Indians contributed a lot to this election. And every year in the last 33 years, I've seen that it's grown in stature and significance. Um, so we saw the birth of an India caucus, which didn't exist 30 years ago, and then suddenly 15 years ago, India caucus became very prominent and very big and had heavyweight, congressmen and senators in it, and of course, then we saw the rise of the Indian Americans in the Congress and Senate, and then Kamala Harris herself, and now she is on the vice presidential ticket. What does this election and and the return of these four people and probably a fifth one mean for now? What is being touted as the Samosa caucus in the U.S. Congress on the Capitol Hill? So Perry is smiling. We'll start with Patel Saab. Patel Saab, Samosa caucus.
I think the wisdom or the forefathers had been that you do want to have the government, that any one branch of the four governments does not dictate the terms. And that's what I think the balance we're going to find. So we most likely, again, I'm not the person to predict, but most likely, even if the Senate becomes the Republicans, since the House would be the Democrat and whoever comes to be the president, and we know where the Supreme Court is. So I think somewhere along the line, it is good to have the checks and balances in the system. And it's good to have people keeping in line. So I think it's going to work out okay, because based on the four different powers of the government, it's going to balance itself out. And I think, Munishji, as you shared about it earlier, because the family has sort of kind of had disputes, disagreements, fallout, whatever you want to call it, I think people's going to pay more attention. Everybody's going to give in a little bit more than they would have otherwise in the past. And I think people will come to realizations that what is good for the greater good, what is good for the economy, what is good for the health of the American, what is good for the average family, and how could they go to the next level. When you have the crisis of the pandemic and the health, and people are suffering a lot more in pandemics, even the doctors now are suffering because of the patients that they treated. Some of them are having some fallout on the issues related to it. So having all these other crises looming on our head, we would have to make the right decisions. I think the country is going to come together. And I think to lead the country like this, where we are today, you would need somebody who has the ability to think through the calm minds, and somebody who could see beyond the today and see the tomorrow and day after.
PG, you have to unmute yourself.
There is what Mr. Patel just said is, I think, very important. And from my perspective, sitting here in Virginia, in terms of the divide that we see, I think I should back up and say a little bit that it looks more like a deadlock between parties. And some of the evidence that I have here is that there is hope for what Mr. Patel says, that had we run this election knowing that we would be entering a global pandemic, would the candidates who would have been put forward be the same? Would they have been speaking to the people in the same way? I have a neighbor here who just put up a sign. It's got all Republican signs, and he added a Democratic sign to his signs. And knowing that person, I think it's an example that's indicative of something we see in the numbers, that the people of the United States do want to come together, do want to solve problems. I've been speaking from a Democratic perspective, as we've said, because that's interesting because of the expectations out of the polls. But I do talk to and work with all sides. And my congressional representatives, the one who just lost his race in my district, I tutored extensively on the economics, and his opponent as well, because at the end of the day, from the from my position and from the position of the institute that I work with, we want good policy implemented. And good policy means that we survive and prosper as people globally. And I think all of us can unite around that. And it's imperative that we have good, clear policy in order to achieve that. And in order to pass this, as Mr. Patel said, in our system of checks and balances, we need to work together. We need to follow the rules of the system to implement policy. And that means not just taking a party perspective, where a party will say, our goal is to elect our candidates. So that's a party perspective. But from our human perspective, the policy is going to matter. And I think there's hope there.
So, I mean, Priya's taken off for a little bit. Venkat, I saw this comment somebody just shared with me. I think it's, who is it writing? Was it? Swaminathan Iyer. To begin with, he says Biden was ahead in many states. Bit by bit, Biden's lead has been reversed by Trump. In North Carolina, Iowa, Pennsylvania, and state after state, it's too early to call. But I would simply say, this is Iyer saying, that Mr. Trump has discovered a large constituency which was earlier not visible either to the Republican Party or the Democratic Party. Hillary Clinton called them deplorables because she thought these guys are racist, white supremacists. I wouldn't go to alarm anybody. I don't want to raise or sensationalize anything. But I do want to ask, in the wake of recent events in America, Black Lives Matter, protests, that if for some reason, whatever be that reason, when the final tally comes out, and if aspirations and hopes and dreams and desires are for some reason quashed a little bit, do you foresee any problem? I mean, or from any side, Priya?
Well, we are seeing in Washington D.C. I mean, I was just seeing on the TV very quickly before joining. People have already started coming out, and but it's peaceful right now. There will be definitely the way the President Trump has addressed his base, or the speech that he gave to the nation, with saying in a way that this is everything, the counting should stop, and it's kind of a fraud. That kind of ignites the base in a very negative manner, correct? So there is, I mean, I personally think there is a possibility, not in all states, but in some states. But to your point, the earlier thing you referred is there is definitely a base that had not voted for President Trump in 2016 was definitely mobilized, and they did come out in large numbers to vote for the president. And I think that were also some of the young Republican voters. So I think the young Republican voters were mobilized from both the sides.
So that's the good thing, because when we say a country, people should go to vote, right to franchise is the most important right in a democratic society for the people. Because unless you exercise that right to franchise, you do not stand on your own feet and you cannot demand whether it's freedom or it's, as aspirations of any kind. So I think both sides, if you ask me honestly, I have seen that in the absentee ballot, there's probably been a lot of ballot cast in the favor of Joe Biden and that ticket. And if you were saying from what, if I were to go by what Priya just said, the young Republicans have come out and voted for Trump. So there is a resurgence. There's a feeling of taking your country into your own hands and sort of putting your mandate out there for who's going to run, rule, and govern you for the next few years. So that's a good thing, isn't that? I mean, it doesn't matter. At the end of the day, people will be polarized. People will be divided. That happens in any election, and we hope that people would chill out and go back to doing their things as everybody has said here. But that's a good thing. I mean, isn't that, Perry? This has been a social consciousness sort of pinging on your social consciousness, making people realize that they need to cast their ballot. People have come out, cast their ballot. I mean, to the extent that I also had my ballot delivered, and and I cast my ballot from wherever I am. So that's a big thing, isn't it?
Yes, yes, Manish, as you said, I think from the day one, in fact, the platform from day one has been, this is the fight for the battle of the soul. And I think that still remains true even today. And I think it continued, it proves the points that that's where we are. America is at the constitutional crisis, and we are trying to figure out which way we're going to head. And in order for us to be productive, in order for us to be still maintaining the superpower in the world, we have to come together. And I believe whatever the results may be, people will come above, rise above the occasion, and hopefully people will come together. And I think it's going to, I only see the optimistic, I only see the positivity in all these things. And I think every situation that you see, you would have the lessons learned. And I think the lessons learned are number of them. Had we had the current administrations with a little bit of the different mindset, even in the speech this morning that was given, I believe when you look at Chris Christie, one of the New Jersey's past governor, you would find that some of those people are not happy about the way the speech came out and the way it was declared to be the victory. And some of the words that were key word that was used in the speech in terms of the voting needs to be stopped. Voting has already stopped as of the day, 8 o'clock, 11 o'clock, whatever time it was yesterday. It is really the counting. So the choice of word, how statements are being made is important. So I just wanted to share that. Just to share one more thing, in the Delaware News Online, uh, they are reporting that uh, Vice President Biden is at 238 electoral, while President Trump is at 213. So based on that, I think we still have too early to tell. I think some of the races in the past, with the margin that they are in, would have been otherwise called, but everybody is very cautious about it. Last thing we want to do is any of these things being called and then to have to be uncalled. So I believe it's going to take a little time. It's going to continue these. It is a standstill right now from where we were from when we started it. And nobody's going to predict anything unless and until they feel that's 100% certain.
So I would like to add here, and PG and Perigi, please correct me. So Pennsylvania has 20 electoral votes, and I think, seeing it today morning, very early morning, and I was half asleep. I mean, I was very tired because I had a very, very long night. Is that there are about 2 million absentee ballots that have to be counted, and they were saying that per hour they could count only 32,000, but now they're saying per hour they can count 10,000. So it might run up till few days also for us to know, what is the final result for Pennsylvania. And till that we have to, because this is a process and we have to wait, and faith and patience.
Well spoken, Priya. I mean, I see you growing into many roles in the future. But this is cool. PG, any final words? I think we've analyzed this thing very well.
Right.
We've sort of got a good ringside view from all of you guys. Thank you very much. And I would like to close with some closing comments. PG, you start.
Yes. Well, this has been a fascinating election. As I said, I remembered 2016, not surprised that this is happening. There are things that we don't pick up in our polling. There was a slogan in the Sanders campaign, we don't watch polls, we make them. And I think we're seeing this here. It's heartening that things are being done at the ballot box. It is good if we can do things that way. Now, part of that is bringing enough choices to the table so that the people can really have effective choices. But another very important thing, the words that incite are indeed troubling. The fact that people are not responding is important. And I think it's important for us to understand that while there are folks on the extreme, it seems here in the United States, it is a small and isolated group. And it's important on our side to have a showing of folks like my good neighbors, and to see even in the polls that there are Trump voters who are saying, indeed, in large numbers of them, that racism is a problem in the United States. and that's dissenting from those inciting and provoking words. So I think that we may be able to pull out a win for our democracy out of this, after all, and outside of what may have feared in the media.
Well, for a country of immigrants and a country of opportunity, I hope that this election, whichever way it goes, ultimately the way it's tied right now, a tight one, should also sort of, you know, sort of cool down tempers on the issue of immigration, discrimination, and race. That's very, very important for a country like America. You know, it stands as a beacon of example to the whole world, and from an immigration standpoint as well as a land of opportunity. You know, in that order. So I think whatever happens in America has a huge ripple effect on the whole world, and that's the way it's been. And I do hope that this election and whatever be the results are taken in the right spirit by the people and in the right manner, and it manifests itself in the public in that manner. So closing comments coming to you, Perry, and then to Priya, and then Venkat.
Manishji, I would add a couple of things. I believe both parties are going through the emotional roller coaster. And hopefully, out of this roller coaster, whoever survives would be able to pull things together. And again, I think out of any crisis, if we could figure out, as PG shared with all of us the other day on a call, that I think we have to take 8 or 10 or 15 different things, because some of these things cannot wait. Some of these things do need immediate attentions. And if nothing comes out of these elections, and at least the issues that were at the forefront, whether it is a racial issue, whether it is environment, whether it is anything that we have been dealing with, including COVID-19, if anything, any one of these issues came to the forefront, or whoever the winner is, and hopefully they could make that agenda accordingly and deal with those, because these are all of our problems. It is not one party's problem, it is not one family's problem, it is not one country's problem. It is a global problem in every one of the situations that we look at it, whether it is the environment and or what's going on in the constitutional crisis. So I hope we all come out on the other end to be strong, and hopefully we all come out on the other end collectively, and hopefully on the other end we all feel that what we learn from that. And it would be difficult for whatever we learn out of this outcome to share with our generation, because they are not going through or they are not learning it. But hopefully some of the lessons learned would make us all a better people.
Great, thank you, Priya.
So I also echo Periji's sentiment, is that the country is very, very divided, and at this point on the ballot there was science, there was compassion, there was racial justice, but America has made its decision, and now the process of counting is happening in some of the key states. So we should have faith and we should have patience, but whoever becomes our next president, he should lead us in a way that he should unite the country. The country is very much divided, and words, at that leadership level, the words and actions matter. So it should be done in a way that there's unity, and it takes us towards the path of prosperity, and not more division of of what we have already. Because I came this in this country in 2000. Now 20 years have been passed, three elections I have seen. In the divide that I have seen in last 4 years, which is very, very visible, and you all can agree, and it's seen globally, it was not before. So actions and words do matter, and if they are coming out from a leadership, some compassion has to be shown.
Yes.
um,
Look, I hear you, and that's, as I said earlier in the day, that is something that's happening globally. I'm sure you're watching it. There's the rise of nationalism. There's the rise of inward-looking things, and COVID has compelled us to look more within. So I think the corrections also need to take place within, and we do hope that the societies intrinsically will assimilate better coming out from this. I think a divided country is not so much a divided country, A divided country shows that the country feels for is behind on certain issues, and we have to have a collective consensus now more than ever before on certain things to move forward. Venkat.
Yeah, so Munishji, I wanted to add one more thing. I mean, you were saying about nationalism. There's definitely there, but on a global stage, a leader cannot, point fingers on their own advisors and chiefs who are, handling the pandemic. For example, I mean, I don't want to go in the depth of it, but that's the words and actions matter, and we all have should learn from it, and because the younger generation takes. Cues from the older generation, and as you said, well, as I said, that from the both sides equal young voters had come and they voted, so they are watching it very closely. So we have to set some good examples of how things are going to move forward, because this pandemic is really, especially when the east coast of the United States heads into a winter season, we are already going to be grappling with the second wave, and whoever emerges in the White House should believe, when Vice President Biden believes in science. But we will see what the outcome of the election is. So words and actions matters, and that's how I would like to end it from
Right,
my
right,
side.
right, right, right. So a divided country, a tight race, a tight vote is not necessarily reflective of stark or bad things to follow. It's just, I think, a demonstration of people's hopes, aspirations, demands, and build. As Perry said, and all of you are saying, I think we need to sort of build consensus between people's thoughts. Venkat.
Yeah, I'm a bit anxious about the future of America if, uh, in the event of Biden getting more than 270 electoral votes and making it to the White House, I'm worried about the possibility of Trump creating problems for him, going to the court, which he has packed with conservatives. And, I'm also worried about the possibility of his encouraging what we in India call gundagardi. And, like ruffians behave when they lose and all that. As it is, America's prestige has gone down the drain during the past 4 years of Mr. Trump's rule of America. And I just think that it is a historic necessity that Trump should lose and Biden should win and restore America's prestige in global affairs. It's a very, very important thing. I'm reminded of what Churchill said at the end of the Second World War. He said, and I quote, "I always knew the Americans will do the right thing after exhausting all other possibilities." I think the Trump years in the White House as the President of the United States, I suppose, is the last thing. And then the Americans hopefully will take a sensible and a right decision. And, things will be back to normal in the United States. There is so much that needs to be done. You cannot disown responsibility and walk out of Paris Peace Accord or walk out of the Iran, agreement, and can't fight with China, which is a very important country, whether you like it or not. So what you need is cohesion within the United States and in global affairs also, making an effort to bring everybody together and move forward. And it's very, very important. And I'm worried about if Trump comes, I don't think all these things are going to happen. Things will get worse. And I just hope that, Americans would have taken a sensible decision. And let's hope for the best. Manish?
Thank
Venkatji,
you, thank you,
Munishji,
Venkat.
Munishji, if I could make just one statement.
Okay.
As we all learned in the COVID-19, we thought things were in our control. We thought the America would have the solutions by now. So I believe, and again, nothing against any one religion, I believe in the superpower. So the God is looking out for all of us. And I think that is where I rest. Hopefully, whoever the person that would be, hopefully he would have the more wisdom. He would be able to guide some of these things we would have never thought about it, that we have to live through the COVID. Some of the adjustments that we all have made, we would have probably have not made it otherwise. When you look at it deep down, it taught us a lot of good things. Sure, when you look in India, the pollution, the rivers, and so I think things, nature is going to take its own course, whether you call it a god, the nature, or the time, whatever you believe in. But there is somebody else who is controlling. We are all put out on this earth for a small different reasons, because we all have a short life expectancy. We only live here for 100 years or whatever, but there is a transition that's going on. So I think we are trying to create the transitional team as we all leave and come and go. So I believe in something greater than all of us collectively that's going to hopefully prevail and give the wisdom to the powers that it may be, and it would of course make a better world.
Well, I can't thank all of my panelists here enough for sparing the time for these marathon sessions. Um, just one second, I'm being asked on a certain breaking news. But anyway, back to all of us. I can't thank you guys enough for being with us and sharing your views and comments. I would like to close on behalf of people of Indian television, PIO TV, as the main anchor of this program, but collaborate in collaboration with the Foreign Correspondents Club of South Asia and with United News of India, on a note which is completely bipartisan. Yes, we were here with our friends from the Democratic Party, but I believe in the right to franchise, in every individual's right to vote and to elect as and how and who they want. So America has voted, and America has voted precisely the way it wanted to vote after a very big campaign. And nobody spared any moves, good, bad, ugly, whatever. So we've seen probably one of the fiercest elections, which bodes well for any fiercely democratic society. We are going to see the verdict, as Priya said. It'll come out in the next day or two. So we have to respect and wait for that very patiently and with faith. And Priya will continue to shower that faith upon us with her four fingers that she is
No,
right now. No,
I
don't
just
speak,
wanted.
don't speak, don't speak. Let me conclude first. Um, so America has voted. We respect America's vote. We respect the fact that it is the world's oldest democracy. We respect the fact that people understand that there are very important issues in this election which govern our lives, and mostly also because of that pandemic which is affecting everybody in the world. So we look forward to gathering with all of you again, maybe as soon as we know that the results are going to be, available to us, so that we could analyze those results more precisely and not deal with this hung sort of situation of who's going where. I think the picture should become clearer, slightly more clearer in 24 hours, if not in 24, then 48 hours for sure. I think we will know exactly where things are headed. But being an Indian American, being a U.S. citizen, I can tell you, I'm very proud to be a part of that country that fiercely pays attention to and votes. And this is a demonstration of that. And I hope people take cue from the fact that you participate in the elections, that you vote your mind, that you vote your heart, that you come out with your issues, that you debate your issues, and then the right good things will prevail. And some of it is what you said, Paresh. Maybe it's some power or superpower that acts, and things happen and things take a twist and come back to normal. I wouldn't prophesize as to what is going to be the right or wrong way to go, but this has been fun. This has been very useful. This has been terrific having you with us and the panel this morning. If you have a one-liner that you wanted to add, Priya, please do it right now before I close.
Yes, so I just wanted to tell all the viewers who are watching that, I know that you all are equally anxious as we are here sitting, seeing what's going to happen minute by minute. But, hope was something that, we all discussed, and that word was very commonly used in this marathon discussion. So I would say that till we have life, the fires of hope won't die. And so we will wait and we will
Yes.
watch. And it's a
Yes.
it's a democratic process. So
and we respect it.
We
And
respect.
thank you again, Priya, and thank you very much, especially to you, for taking out the time and helping us coordinate this whole thing with our friends and commentators from around the country. Thank you, Perry. I mean, to take us all the way inside, braving the cold weather. I also request you that in the days to come, let's please get some good people around us who have been elected or those that might have lost to give a perspective on this election, this landmark, milestone, historic, I don't know what else to say, election that we have just witnessed. And PG, thank you very much. You lent a very fresh perspective to the whole thing, lest we became too only Indian or Indian American in this whole debate. So thank you for bringing that perspective, and let's reconvene. Let's come back maybe, and we will announce whenever we can get together. But let's get those people, whoever has been elected, to our audience and make them understand how America has voted, why America has voted. So let's bring the people face to face. Enough of commentary. Let's try to bring the people face to face who've been elected to say what they are going to do now going forward. So this has been a special bulletin, a special live telecast coming from Virginia, Delaware, Boston, New York, Michigan, many parts of America and India. Thank you very much. Thank you to our audience for watching, and we'll come back to you soon again. Good morning in America and good night in India. Bye bye.
Bye.